Hi, I'm Don Bullock, and welcome to the Tech Eye Hound, where I sniff out news about Apple. They just presented WWDC25. While new operating systems were announced and demonstrated, it's what we didn't expect them to say that became big news, especially with their investors, and was the subject of Apple executives following the event at many interviews that I've seen. I realize that this video is being released later than most. I decided instead of just repeating all of Apple's hype or giving you a knee-jerk reaction like so many others I've seen so far, I thought I'd let the dust settle and actually put some thought and reflection into this presentation. That may not get the large audience that others are getting, but I think it's all what you want. With WWDC25, we finally had an actual event. We've waited 9 months to hear from them instead of simply reading or looking at short press releases, and Apple delivered. They've introduced some massive changes to all of their operating systems. But they also covered some important news that got attention of their investors. After Tim's usual
Good morning
intro, Apple Intelligence was presented. Yes, going against many predictions, they did go there. This part of the keynote just simply rehashed all the features that they've already implemented, nothing else. Apple is treading softly here with what they say about Apple Intelligence, but made sure that they showed the things that they've already released. You can see those on the screen. Private cloud compute for Apple Intelligence was also mentioned as something they've created to protect privacy, but Apple still refuses to state how big their cloud compute data center is. All they'll say is it runs on Apple Silicon for efficiency and it operates solely using renewable energy. This was Apple's chance to speak to their critics without addressing their failures. Siri was mentioned, despite many thinking that it wouldn't be. Siri was only mentioned twice during the whole presentation. According to Craig Federighi, they have added some enhancements to make Siri more natural and helpful, and they continue to deliver new features to make Siri more personal. Craig added Apple's latest line regarding Siri, quote, "This work needed more time to make a high-quality bar, and we look forward to sharing more about it in the coming year," end quote. He then presented a list of languages that are now supported by Apple Intelligence. That's it. This segment was so short that I've noticed that some tech journalists actually missed it. I'm not sure if talking about Apple Intelligence and especially Siri was a wise move for Apple. According to some reports, Apple's stock saw a significant dip of over 1.5% to 2.5% in price, depending on the report, during the keynote and continued on after into the afternoon. According to Business Insider, quote, "About 6 minutes into the presentation, Apple's stock abruptly fell more than 2.5% from roughly $206 a share to below $201. This is the equivalent of about $75 billion in market value. Just seconds earlier, Apple software chief Craig Federighi was on stage recapping Apple's intelligence features the company had already rolled out in recent months, such as Genmoji, smart replies, photo cleanup tools. Then he pivoted to Siri, and that's when things got awkward," end quote. In case you're wondering, according to my stopwatch, Craig ended the segment on Apple Intelligence and Siri at approximately 5 minutes and 30 seconds into the keynote. So that sounds about right. An article in the Economic Times stated that Apple's stock price drop wasn't so big. They stated that Apple's stock was only down 1.5% for the day, but that's still significant. Most analysts say the drop was likely due to announcements about Siri and the feeling among investors that upgrades didn't go far enough to match what rivals like Google and Microsoft have already rolled out. After talking about Siri, Craig further stated that they continued to tap into Apple Intelligence in more places. For the first time, Apple is opening up access to their on-device large language models, which will be the core of Apple Intelligence. Apple is supplying developers with a new Foundation Models framework so they can have access to Apple's on-device AI. They can use it to tap into Apple's on-device LLM. Obviously, Apple is depending on developers to expand the possibilities of Apple Intelligence. According to several I've heard from that were in attendance, this announcement sparked applause from the developers section at the live event at Apple Park. I'm also still unsure of where we stand with Apple Intelligence. In the iJustine interview, Craig Federighi stated that Siri is close to meeting that bar of their expectations that Apple has set. He claims that all of the announced features are working internally, but they're not ready yet to be launched. Reliability, according to Craig, is the main issue. The next day, Joanna Stern from Wall Street Journal released a video of a portion of an interview she did after the keynote with Craig Federighi and Greg Wozniak, better known as Jaws. They both doubled down, saying that everything was shown in WWDC last year regarding Siri was not just a demonstration. Everything we saw was real. Jaws even briefly mentioned the TV commercials that they had to withdraw. Something I'd like to point out here is Craig alluded to the fact that others are not using language models on device. What Apple is trying to do is different. He further stated something along the line that it will be around for a long time in the future, and they want to get it right now. Jaws stated instead of a chatbot, Apple sees Apple Intelligence as something that enables features across our operating systems. Sometimes users don't even realize they're using AI. And really, that's true. He further stated that there's no app called Apple Intelligence. It fits into everything else that they do. Jaws further stated that that's why they integrated access to ChatGPT into Apple Intelligence. Now, I'll add here that getting new Siri up to Apple's standards, as with any new technologies, that last percentage, that last bit, is often the most difficult. I remember my dad saying that for many years. He was a research scientist. It can be the most difficult, and it can also break the implementation and acceptance of the technology. It's obvious here that the incorrect responses we see from many AI queries, like eating rocks and putting glue on pizza, are unacceptable to Apple's quality standards. Joanna Stern is good, almost borders on being rude, but to be clear, Apple requested the interview with her the day before, not way ahead of time. So Joanna Stern asked straight out, when is the new Siri going to be ready? And Craig said, we want to make sure we have it pretty much in hand before we start talking about dates for obvious reasons. Later in the day, both Craig and Jaws appeared on an interview with Mark Spoonhour from Tom's Guide and Lenz Elftoff from Tech Radar. Craig again laid out the groundwork on what's been going on with Apple Intelligence and the new Siri. So Mark asked, when will the new Siri be available? Craig restated that they don't want to pre-communicate a date until the V2 architecture that they're using in-house and is in a form that shows what they've been talking about is at a quality level that makes it a good Apple product. So the release date won't be announced until it's ready. Mark pressed on and asked, instead of an actual release date, is it okay to say 2026? And Jaws immediately replied.
Yeah, and that's what we said.
Contrary to what many of the AI companies are saying, according to CNET survey, just 11% of people upgrade their phone for AI features. Over 40% of smartphone users are worried about privacy when it comes to using AI on their smartphones. Apple sees AI as a tool to help their users, not as a chatbot. While most power users may be using LLMs and chatbots, the regular user isn't. For many, their only exposure to AI is in the news. As a result, Apple implements AI into their tools that people use every day, not into a chatbot. Privacy is Apple's strength here. They've developed an on-device LLM and continue to expand their private cloud compute LLM. That's something nobody else has. Going back to the Wall Street interview with Joanna Stern, Jaws said that when Steve Jobs came back to Apple, he told everyone what we need to do is to make great products and tell everyone about them. If we do that, everything will turn out. In his opinion, Apple's products are currently great, even exceptional, and getting better. So he's sticking with admittedly his naive theory that if Apple makes great products and tells people about them, everything else will work out. Throughout Apple's history, they've never tried to be first. They've tried to be the best. Or in Craig's terms, we want to build the right products for our customers. One reason that I use Apple's products is their commitment to their users to get things right. I have several more videos on WWDC25 that are coming. The next one will address the new interface and how it translates across all Apple's operating systems and provides a unified look and feel. I'll also cover the major improvements in the various operating systems in a separate video. We're entering a season where Apple announces a lot of things. Remember, we have new iPhones coming as soon as well. Over here are some videos that I think you might like. Please give this video that thumbs up. It will help me greatly. Remember to subscribe to the channel and click on the notification bell. And thank you all very much for watching.